Welcome into Courtside Seats with Kroeger,
a Charlotte Hornets podcast.
Here he is, Chris Kroeger.
Episode 21 of Courtside Seats, our Charlotte Hornets podcast, and I think it's the first time we've had a recurring guest with a player on because we got our rookie here, Miles Bridges. Miles, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. I was telling you, we were walking down here to the radio studio. I'm like, man, I'm a rookie just like you on the radio side, so I'm like, this is my first time traveling with the team, and it's good to be home, right? We got, I think, 17 of the next 25 are in November and December are going to be at home. And I know we're only, 7 games into the season, but you go on the road for 4 games right out of the gates, it kind of messes with you a little bit.
Yeah, especially for me because I'm not used to that traveling. I mean, I did a lot of traveling in college, but it's going city to city, day after day, just playing back-to-back. So it's kind of tough, but I think we did a good job.
Yeah, no, I mean, you go 2-2 on the road trip. You had an opportunity to go 3-1 that kind of slipped away in Chicago. But, yeah, it's so different, right? Because guys will tell you about that, the travel in the league and you playing all the time and you got to stay ready. But it's one thing to hear it. It's another thing to, see it day to day, right? Like, it's real. It's a grind.
Yeah, it's definitely different. That's why the vets, they just kept stressing to me to take care of my body, eat the right foods, because it could be tearing on your body for sure.
How you feeling so far? You feeling comfortable? You feel like, man, I belong? Because you're playing like it.
I feel great. I give all the credit to all the vets on the team, like TP, Kemba, Marvin, those guys. They look out for me each day.
It's been fun to kind of watch you guys learn and understand and get to know each other and also get to know this coaching staff. And so there's a chemistry here. I know Mitch has said it at times, like you don't necessarily know what it means in terms of wins and losses, but I do think it matters, right? Like you guys pull for each other, you fight for each other, you get along. I think if you want to be a good team, I think there's got to be that understanding and rallying for one another, right?
Yeah, definitely. You see all the championship teams, they have a lot of great team chemistry off the court and on the court. So we're just trying to build that. Everybody on the team, we're close to each other. There's no egos on the team. We're just trying to win. So that's the main goal.
How quickly did the time you got your name called back in June on draft night to opening night on October 17th, like how quickly did those months fly by for you?
Yeah, it was fast because I was nonstop traveling. I was going to Vegas, New York for the draft, coming back here to Charlotte, then playing preseason. So it went by really fast, but I feel like I was prepared for it. It's
just wild because like the NBA never stops anymore. Like summer leagues become such a big thing, and then preseason play as well. But yeah, it's this is why you're talking about. Like, you got to take care of your body. Like you got to take care of your body. You got to watch what you're putting in it, getting sleep. I think sleep's probably one of the biggest things you could do for yourself, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of hard to get sleep on the road because you arrive like 1 a.m. Off the plane. If you sleep on the plane, then you can't really
sleep in your room.
Yeah, so it's kind of tough, but sleep is a big thing for us.
What was your favorite place to play so far on the road?
Definitely Miami. Miami was great. Their crowd was crazy.
Crowd was lit, right? That crowd was into that game.
That crowd was crazy. What else? Toronto was a great crowd. And I have to go with 76ers, too. That was a good crowd.
It's good, too, right? Because I think it gives you that extra juice. I mean, it's hard to win on the road, but you want to up your game, too, when you get out there and that crowd's going, and you guys have kind of answered the call in all those games.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all our losses came from, besides Toronto, just 2 points. So it just shows that we can play with those teams, and we just want to continue to get better every game.
You knew Kemba was good. Did you know he was this good?
I always Kemba. He's definitely underrated in the league.
Yeah.
He's one of the best PGs. He's top 5 to me now. Just seeing him play.
Top 5.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of great point guards in the league, but he's one of the greats.
And I think it's his ability to just get to a spot on the floor, right? Like he knows where he wants to get. And despite his size, he's going to get there. And
he's a great finisher, too. Like the way he finishes over bigs in this league is tough to do. Even I can't finish like that sometimes. Yeah. So I'm just trying to learn stuff from him each day.
What is it about his ability to finish? Is it his touch around the rim? What is it? Because he makes some crazy shots with some crazy angles.
Yeah, I think he just knows how to use his body well. His footwork is great. Like I said, he knows how to use his body well, get to the rim, get into the defender, and lay it up. So it looks tough, but he knows what he's doing.
He does this move, and I swear I don't know how many other guys have done this in the NBA, but he knows because of his lack of size. He'll bait a defender at his hip, right? Have you seen him? And he'll almost throw himself back into the defender and then project himself back towards the basket.
Yeah.
And so he'll make a shot, and then he'll draw contact to get an and one. But, I mean, the ability to use your body that way is crazy. Like, there aren't a lot of guys that can pull that move off.
Yeah, I've only seen a few players in the league do that. So, like I said, I'm just trying to learn from him.
Yeah.
Maybe I could pull that off in a game one day.
Well, you've been shooting the ball well, which I think a lot of people said, well, that'll be the part of Miles' game it's got a lot of growth in your game. Because you shot the ball well from the college three-point line. But people say in the NBA, we'll see what his game can do. But man, you've been shooting lights out. You're shooting over 60% from the field. You're shooting over 40% from three. So what's going on with your shot this summer? Because you're coming out with confidence right now.
Yeah, I just try to put a lot of work into my shot. Just shooting a lot of three-pointers after practice, before practice. I don't know. I just know in the league, if you can't shoot the three-pointer, then you're kind of a liability on the offensive end. So I've been trying to. That's a big thing for me.
Well, and when you're shooting the ball like that, with your ability to put the ball on the deck, like that's a game changer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. So that kind of opens up my game for me to get to the rim like I want to.
Have you had a favorite dunk yet?
No, not yet. I've been trying to come to the lane one time, but I can't. One day it's gonna open up for me though. So
I was calling the game. What was this? Saturday night in Philly, right? And you and Nick had the fast break. You had a 2-on-1 opportunity, and I could see it happening before you actually threw it down. So I was like, here we go. We're getting ready for the dunk. And Nick had gave you the ball. You're about to get it right back. But I think you've become a player for our fans.
Wow.
And they can't stop talking about you because they see those opportunities where it's like, all right, Miles is coming downhill with a full head of steam and an opportunity to throw a dunk down. I think everybody's just kind of holding their breath and waiting to see what's going to happen with you.
Yeah, I'm happy I can have that effect on the crowd this early. I'm just trying not to get blocked in this league, because if you show that you're going to do weak layups all the time, people are going to continue to jump with you. So I just want to show that I'm like, it's nothing nice when I get to the rim.
But you know what? You got, who was it? Somebody put a nice dunk down on you in Toronto, right? And you came back just a handful of minutes later and threw one down. That's the league, right? Like,
yeah,
it's crazy how talented guys are. We're going to see a guy in Miami. I already saw him, Derek Walton Jr., right? Like, that guy can sky.
Jones, yeah.
Derek Jones, excuse me. Yeah, Derek Jones. That dude can sky.
Derek could get up. I've never seen somebody jump like he could jump. He's so skinny, too, so you never see it coming. But, yeah, I've been watching him dunk since, like, high school.
And he's lefty. There's something about a lefty dunker to me that's just a little – I think it's because it's so odd. You don't see it very often. It makes it like there's more theatrics involved.
Yeah, it's hard to block a left-handed dunker. That's why I tend to switch hands in the air sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard to block.
Well, when somebody asked you recently, they said, all right, we've talked about this, but dunk contest in Charlotte, are you going to do it? What's going to happen? And your response was what?
I always said I don't know, but they're kind of like getting me to say yeah now. So
who's trying to wait? Hold up now. Who's trying to get you to say yeah?
Oh, you like the guys, Devontae, Kemba, those guys.
Oh, the locker room wants this to happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. How do you feel about it?
I mean, I keep telling people I'm not a dunk contest dunker, but I'll do it just for the fans.
What's the difference? Explain the difference to me.
Like an in-game dunker, like it's just more adrenaline involved, and the dunks are harder. But like in a dunk contest, I mean, your adrenaline is still up, but it's more so you're more nervous. So,
but you're very reactionary. Like, so not only are you a guy that on the break you'll throw something down, like you'll crash the glass too. Like I saw you hunting the other night and you almost landed one where it's like if somebody doesn't put a body on you, you're gonna go chase down that ball and try and throw it down too.
Yeah, that's what I learned at Michigan State. Coach Izzo, he's big on crashing the glass, and it's crazy because I never crashed the glass at Michigan State, but now in the league it's just more open. I see more opportunities. Yeah.
Well, and then the other thing too is your ability to defend, right? And so I think we've seen you out on the court defending multiple positions because of all the switching that goes on defense. Have you surprised yourself, maybe even at how much like you can just body up and battle with these guys?
Yeah, I mean, especially last night because I was guarding J.J. Redick most of the game, and he's a tough guy to guard. So I was just impressed with myself, just how I was just staying disciplined and able to like make him take tough shots. But yeah, that's become one of my vocal points in my game. What's Coach tell you when you guys are watching film? Because he says you're real teachable, you're real coachable, you're always kind of asking questions and learning, you adapt well. But what's he tell you when you're watching film? Just my main thing with me is just staying disciplined and making the right plays. That's what he continues to tell me. So I just try to make the right plays each play. Do you have an opportunity to watch any other games during the week? You watching other teams right now, or are you so focused on like? Well, yeah, I got league pass, but I like to see other teams, see what they do, especially the teams that we're going to play soon. So I just want to just get a little feed in on them. What's your early season surprise in the NBA? Good or bad?
Like, I'm shocked by OKC right now. We're going to see them in a couple nights. And they'll still figure it out. I think they got too much talent, but like...
Yeah, they got 2 All-Stars, but it's going to be a lot of shocks in the NBA. Like, I didn't know Toronto was going to go 6-0 with that trade.
They look good, right?
They definitely look good. I didn't think they were going to look that good. LeBron and them are 2-4. So everything is...
And they've been in almost every game, too.
Yeah, so everything is tough in the NBA. It's no easy nights. And it's going to be a lot of surprises.
What shocks you about... Did anything shock you about Toronto, watching them?
It's just they have a little bit more urge to them this year because they got Kawhi on the defensive end, so it's tough to play with him on the defensive end. Danny Green, they have a lot of chemistry with them too, and Kyle Lowry, he's upped his game a lot. So they're going to be a tough team.
And they're too deep at every position, right? And they're long, they're athletic. They go to the bench, they bring in more length and athleticism. That's a scary thought, I think, for the East.
Yeah, that's definitely a scary thought. They could compete with Boston and the top teams in the East, but we're trying to get up there with them.
Well, and we got a good stretch, right? 17-25 at home. You get to settle in, and Miles, it's good to see you, man.
Yeah.
Keep doing your thing. You're playing well. Everybody's talking about you, so keep working hard, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're rolling on with episode 21 of Courtside Seats, and we are going to welcome in Sam Perley of Hornets.com. Perley World, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well. So we're 3-4 into the early season schedule. We're about, almost 2 weeks in now, about a week and a half into the season. So I feel like it's a good time. Let's take a look at some trends, what we've seen thus far, maybe what's surprising, what's not surprising. And then I think the other thing is, too, we'll talk some 30th anniversary because our 30th anniversary team was announced. And the masses are angry, okay? So we will vet our way through and wade through and try to wade through what happened with our top 10 Hornets of all time, which is a very subjective list, by the way, okay? Like, can we just say that on the front end?
Absolutely. That's what fan voting is.
Yes, it's not an authoritarian sort of like, hey, this is absolutely our 10 best players in team history. It's what our fans voted on. Maybe you as a fan voted on it, and maybe you voted differently than somebody else. But look, we put it up to the masses, and they voted. But we'll start with where we're at. So I think all things considered, when you looked at the schedule, right, we all, I think, had the same reaction. Season opener against Milwaukee. Okay, that should be fun. That also should be really hard.
Yes.
And then you go right on the road for a 4-game Eastern Conference road trip. And, I mean, all things considered, I think the Hornets got through the first 5 games of the schedule pretty much as expected, and maybe you could even argue a little better than expected because you fall in heartbreaker to Milwaukee, and then you go 2-2 on a 4-game road trip.
Yeah, I think the 2-2 on the road trip maybe wasn't how the 2-2 we thought was going to play out. I think you kind of look ahead of time. You think Toronto's going to be pretty hard. You think Miami's going to be pretty hard. We haven't played super well there in the last few years.
Yep.
But you end up winning in Orlando, and you beat Miami, and then kind of drop one maybe you should have had in Chicago. So right now I think it's about where it's at. And, for a team that has a new head coach and still trying to get its legs underneath it, I think 3-4, it's some good, some bad. I think one of the oddest things is we played 4 games right now that are virtually toss-up games, and you have 3 blowouts. So that's kind of skewing the numbers a little bit. Right now, the Hornets are tied for 9th in the NBA in net rating, and they're a 3-4 team. So they're averaging 5.3 points more than their opposition per 100 possessions. So a little skewed and hard to bring much of the small sample size, but right now there's some good and some bad.
Yeah, and then one of the other things you talk about offensive and defensive rating. One of the things I was looking up the other day, and this was going into Philly on Saturday night, so it's changed a bit. I don't have the exact numbers to this moment completely in front of me, but when you go back and list small sample size, right, very small sample size. But a problem for the Hornets last year and in recent years is depth behind Kemba Walker, right? So Kemba's second in total points scored going into Monday night in the NBA. Is 3rd in scoring per game. Guy's second in total threes made behind Stephen Curry, who's off on a ridiculous tear of his own.
Usual.
Right? So when you look at what Kemba's done, you'd think, okay, well, what's behind him, right? And now Tony Parker's come in. Devontae played over the weekend in Philly. And so there's a very small sample size. But last year, when Kemba was on the court, the offensive rating for the Hornets, so that's points per 100 possessions, 110.7. That's some really high-powered offense, right? Really good. When he was off the court, it dipped to 100.1. So a difference of 10 points, over 10 points per 100 possessions. Well, here's the encouraging part. This season, Kemba on the court, 113.5. So it's even gone higher with Kemba. The offense is clicking, to your point. Off the court, it's now 109.4. So there's always going to be a drop-off, right, when you go from an all-star point guard to your backup point guard. But to see that gap, and it's early, right? Mm-hmm. But to see that be bridged, I think, speaks to what the Hornets have done with Tony Parker, what they might have, and I think we're all pretty confident down the road in Devontae Graham, and I think that's the type of stat I look at and say that's very encouraging because I think the bench has been inconsistent in recent years. Mm-hmm. I think this bench is going to wind up being a strength for this team before it's all said and done.
Absolutely. You've had some games where the starters have gone out and looked really, really good, and then it's sort of the bench was the drop-off, and then you had some games where it was vice versa. So it's not going to be, and then you have, like Chicago on Friday night, really balanced effort all the way around. You had 8 guys in double figures. Starters look great. The bench really kind of put them over the top in that second quarter moving forward. So, again, with 7 games, if you have one game that kind of bucks the trend, it's going to kind of inflate the numbers a little bit. But overall, I think the benches look really, really good. Tony, Devontae coming in. You got Biz playing a little bit more. Miles has looked great. So far, it's encouraging signs.
Well, and one of the other things that obviously has been so frustrating for a lot of Hornets fans in recent years has been the close losses, right? Mm-hmm. This team has had a positive point differential each of the last 2 seasons, probably indicative of a team that's more of a profile of like a 40 to 42 win team, a 7-8 seed perhaps in the playoffs, and instead it's been 36 and 46 over the last 2 years. Well, this team this year, unfortunately, early on, 7 games played, 4 of them have been decided within 5 minutes in the last 5 points in the last 5 minutes. So again, you're in those clutch situations the Hornets have struggled in, and I'm not worried about it as much as I have been in years past. I don't know what you think about it. I mean, it's certainly the game was there against Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. Kemba's shot just didn't go. You go against Chicago the other night. Kemba, there was a turnover with 5 seconds to go. That game was there. Execution was an issue. So there are all these games. Philadelphia, same thing. Hornets had the lead with a few minutes to go at some points in the fourth quarter in Philly on Saturday. I don't really look at this and say, here we go again, as much as I almost feel like this is going to get hammered out. Mm-hmm. I feel like there are more options this time around for the Hornets, especially with the way the offense is going to actually start clicking and producing. It just takes 1 or 2, right? You got to get over the hump on that.
Right, and we saw this way back during the playoff season, the 48 wins. I mean, it was constantly pulling out these wins, last-second wins, buzzer beaters, things like that. You look at that Milwaukee game, fall down by 20 in the first half. You're lucky even in position to have a chance to win at the end. Chicago, a couple things happen here or there. Same with Philly. You're playing on a back-to-back. Some of those games you can, I guess, that has a reasoning behind it. Maybe it came down to 1 possession, but a lot of it is dictated far earlier in the game. It doesn't come down to 1 possession. It's plays and plays before that. It's how you start the second half. Look in the Chicago game, MKG was in foul trouble. Cody had kind of an injury that took him out. So there's a lot of things that lead up to that final play. And like you said, it's execution right now. Instead of the play itself is good, it's sort of when you get in those crunch time moments, coming up with a big play, big defensive stop, making a shot, stuff like that.
Are you surprised at all maybe with the way some of the rotations are working? Because it seems like JB's still tinkering with who he trusts. He said he wants to play, ideally, 9 guys. And I think it's hard to play 10 or more guys consistently in the NBA. Matchups, injuries will dictate some of that, but I think you've seen a few guys that are obviously very solid or in the rotation, but even as recently as the last couple games, we saw Bismack Biyombo jump ahead in the rotation. Some of that matchup oriented, and I think JB was looking for defense, and Biz can provide that. So have you been surprised at all maybe with how fluid things have been with the rotation so far?
A little bit. I think with your new head coach, and you're still getting to know these players. He has been around them the whole summer, but you're still trying to figure out what combinations stick. And there are times when I kind of look back and be like, oh, goodness, we got Kemba, Malik, and Tony all on the court right now. I wonder which one of these is who's playing small forward right now or who's playing the 3. So it's kind of exciting because you find stuff and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is clicking. So it's part of kind of the process of figuring things out. It is still very early in the season. But, yeah, like you said, Biz coming a little bit, whether that was matchup-oriented with Joel Embiid on Saturday or it's, he's starting to kind of wants to get more of a look. He's stressed physicality being an issue. Biz is about as physical as anybody on the team. We'll see, especially during this 4-game home stretch coming up.
And then Miles, too. I mean, I think what we've seen from Miles, I'll read out the official rankings on this because it deserves all the attention he's been getting so far. Among NBA rookies for Miles Bridges, here we go.
Okay.
Points per game, 9.3. In limited minutes, nonetheless, 9.3. That's 7th in the NBA among rookies. Field goals made, 3.8 per game, 6th in the NBA amongst rookies. His field goal percentage is bonkers, 63.9%. It's second best in the NBA with at least players that have taken 10 field goal attempts among all rookies, 7 3-pointers made, third most among rookies. He's fourth in three-point percentage. He's shooting 43.8% from deep on at least 5 attempts. His true shooting percentage is 73.3%.
Not bad.
Second,
I'll take it.
Not bad, right? Second best in the NBA among rookies. And here's my favorite one. His player efficiency rating, his PER, if you will, is 19.3. It's second best in the NBA among rookies behind DeAndre Ayton, who basically lives near the rim and is a physical freak, and the number 1 overall pick. So Miles Bridges has been, I wouldn't even say as good as advertised. He's been better than advertised. And what's crazy is I think we're scratching the surface on what he can be.
Absolutely. This looks like a guy that can do a lot of different things. So if he has nights where his shots are not falling, he's shown, I mean, he's hitting the shots. But if, say, his shots aren't going to fall every night, he can play defense. He can rebound. He's a physical player.
Crashes the glass.
He's still 20, 21 years old. He's played 7, 6 NBA games. It's going to take a little bit to kind of get over those. There's going to be rookie bumps. There always is with every player. But it seems like he's gotten a handle on it. And JB was really impressed with his play against the Bulls here last Friday, saying he just works hard every day. He gets better every single day. And that's what you want to hear about a rookie player. He continues to get better and continues to earn minutes. And it looks like he's becoming, I think he might have been the first guy off the bench in Philadelphia.
He was,
or
yeah.
if not, he was close. So he's definitely earned a significant role in this team, and it's exciting to see how good he can be because all things look good so far.
Yeah, and I think he's another guy that speaks to the bench unit, right? Like what Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is providing, what a guy like Biz can provide from a toughness standpoint off the bench, what Miles can do, Malik from a shooting standpoint. He struggled the last couple games to find his touch, but we know Malik can get hot. So, yeah, and then Tony Parker. Tony had 18 at 8 the other night. So he well-deserved his night off he got Saturday in Philadelphia. And he had 10 in Chicago. I think we're starting to see, I can see it. I don't know about you. I can actually see Tony getting into better shape. Like I can see his conditioning rounding into form. I can see his legs getting up underneath him. And he's a guy that knows his body better than anybody. 18 years in the NBA, you don't just come right out of the gates for an 82-game schedule. And so to see him kind of round into form, and the thing that's so remarkable about him when I watch Tony, he knows where he needs to get into the teeth of the defense, to draw attention to him, and to create shots. He doesn't even need to shoot. But even with his ability to penetrate and dribble and find those spots on the floor, the looks he creates for his teammates, even at his age, it's unbelievable how good he is at finding those looks.
He's such an asset to this team. He's so smart. He's been through everything. He's accomplished everything in this league. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. And one thing people kind of forget is last summer he was coming off the ruptured quadricep he had in the playoffs.
Yeah, similar injury to Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, so he was coming off that, and then the year before, just like Nick, he's been doing national team stuff the whole summer. I think Rio was his final appearance with the French national team. I think he retired. So it makes sense that it's taking him. I mean, he hasn't really had a summer where he didn't play competitive basketball. You take out last summer, he's rehabbing. This summer, he didn't do any international play or anything like that. So it's going to take him a couple of games. But right now, he looks great. If he can, 10 points and 4 or 5 assists a night, I mean, that's, they say, but that's a lot of production compared to some of the backup point guard situations this team has had in the years past. No offense to anybody back there, but Tony is so good and he's so valuable, and his leadership aspect, I think, cannot be minimized at all.
Yeah, and to see how demonstrative he is on the court. When the Hornets were they were down 25-23 Friday against the Bulls, and were just kind of mired in, like, the crowd was, I think it was a wet day, right? There was a lot of traffic. The president was in town. I think sometimes the crowd, whatever's going on outside the arena, sometimes finds its way into the arena. And I think the crowd was waiting for the team to give them a reason to jumpstart themselves, right? And it was 25-23 going into the second quarter, and then Tony and Mike and Miles and some of those guys got out there, and that second unit ignited and start, especially with Tony. He had 14 points in the first half, and he was so demonstrative when he sparked that run. The Bulls called a timeout, and he went over to the Hornets bench, and he was just like screaming at them, like imploring them, let's go. And for anybody that thought he was here for some sort of farewell tour in Charlotte, I mean, I think Tony's already proved early on this matters to him in a different way than just wanting to collect another check for a year.
Oh, absolutely. And even as a NBA fan, it's still weird seeing him something
and
not a San Antonio jersey, even though he has been here. We've seen him in the building. He's clearly a Charlotte Hornet. But, this is important to him. He said he's been to the playoffs all 17 years he's been in the league. He wants to win. He's not here, like you said, for a farewell tour. He's not here just to be with Nick because they have the relation on the French national team. He's not here because of JB, because he used to coach. I mean, he is here to win. If he's making the time and effort to be here, he's going to put everything he has into it. And that's really great to see for somebody who has nothing left to accomplish in this league. I mean, with all said and told, he has nothing left to accomplish, but is still playing at such an elite level and is trying to demand as much as he can out of his teammates.
6-time All-Star, 4-time NBA champion, Finals MVP. Yeah, I mean,
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Hall of Famer, surefire Hall of Famer, one of the best international players in the history of our league. So yeah, it's been remarkable to watch him. Kemba, I don't know what else to say other than we shouldn't be surprised. Truly, we shouldn't. He's an elite player at his position in the NBA, yet he's kicked it up another notch. You love to crunch the numbers. Give me the most ridiculous number that jumps out to you about what Kemba's done through 7 games so far.
23 shots a game right now. That is a lot.
It's a lot of shots.
And whether it's sustainable or not, I mean, some of it's kind of, can be inflated a little bit here and there, but he hasn't played. He's benched in the fourth quarter in the Chicago game at home and I think in the Orlando game last week. So 23 is kind of an absurd number in terms of field goal attempts. I think 3-point attempts, he's up near 11 or 12 right now. So, like you said earlier today, can this Glenn Rice, as we can kind of make that transition to the top, talking about Hornets anniversary, is that a number that you think was in striking distance right now to have Glenn Rice's career or single season points per game average? I think it's 26.8. 26.8.
I've looked, yes. Yeah. I've vetted this, 26.8. I think it's certainly possible, right? I don't know why you would say it's not possible. Is it likely? We're going to find out. I mean, I think you're already seeing teams blitz Kemba, but, not every team has the capability to do it. We'll see a Miami team Tuesday night that did it in the second half of Miami, and guess what? Kemba still found a way to go for 30-plus against them in their building and hit the winning free throw with a half second remaining. So you got to have length. You got to have athleticism. You got to have guys that, quite honestly, too, you got to have a lineup that can absorb fouls, because if you're going to commit that kind of attention to somebody like Kemba, you're going to foul him, right? You're going to send him to the free throw line a lot, and you're going to be in a situation where you could commit some fouls. I don't know how many teams actually across the board can do that. Milwaukee was able to. Yep. Miami can. We know Boston, Toronto can. Golden State. There are a handful of teams, right? And so I think for that standpoint, I'd say 25-5-5. Why couldn't Kemba average that this season?
Oh, I think it's totally possible.
Totally possible, right?
Yeah. And you look back a few years ago when that 3-point shot finally came around, I think it was 2015. Obviously, when you're hitting more three-pointers, your scoring average is going to go up. But how other teams play you just completely changes. How you're guarded, how the rest of the defense and offense reacts. It's a chain reaction. It's not just he can pull up from 3 or is he going to drive the lane? It's one of the two. Confuses the defense. When you didn't have a 3-point shot, defense can play back a little bit, play closer to the lane because they know he can't hit that outside shot. Now he can, and it just has changed everything. It's amazing that one summer in 2015 how his whole career changed.
Well, and look at what he's doing with a pull-up jumper now. So not only is he working off of screens and he's deadly on those, what he does from a pull-up jumper standpoint now from behind the 3-point line, there are very few guys that could shoot it with that kind of consistency in the NBA, and he's added that to his game to where now, to your point, teams are having to pick him up sometimes in the backcourt. Sometimes you're picking him up full court. Sometimes when he crosses the midcourt line, you're out there trying to pressure him out near the logo, and that's where if you're somebody else out on the court, you're just looking for a cut, right? You're looking for that, hey, where can I be? Because that ball, Kemba's going to find me. If he doesn't see a shot he likes, I'm confident he's going to find me. And maybe some of that regularity hasn't been there yet for guys like Marvin and Nick and Jeremy Lamb. But, you look at Jay Lamb, what he was able to do last year. I'm confident he's going to get comfortable here soon. It's him starting from day one is a little new, but I'm confident once he settles in, I think he could be a guy that's a big benefactor of what defenses are throwing at Kemba right now.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing that was brought up in practice today is who's going to be that secondary scorer for the Hornets. And it's been like this for a few years. I mean, Kemba's been so great, but there's got to be somebody else if this team is going to be successful. We've had a second leading scorer. It's been, I think, somebody different every night. It's Malik one night, then it's Miles, then it's Nick, then it's Jeremy, then it's Cody. Sometimes that's going to be dictated on matchups and who's guarding you on the other team, but who's going to be the guy that, like in Philadelphia on Saturday night, Kemba scored 16 or 14 of the 18 points in the fourth quarter and just didn't have a lot of production from somebody else on the team. Who's going to be the guy when the defense collapses on Kemba that can step up and hit a shot? Now, again, circumstances there on the back end of a back-to-back, so things happen, but I think that's my, another one of my observations early in the season. Who's going to be this second guy that's going to step up? It might be a bench guy. It might be a starter. Who knows?
Well, and I think JB was talking about this the other day on our coaches show, where the teams that turn out to be the teams that not only get to the playoffs but do something in the playoffs, those are the ones that earlier than most settle into who they are as a team, right? Mm-hmm. You're not spending a month or 2 months figuring out what's our identity, how do we want to play. To your point, who can we depend on outside of Kemba? Guys settle into their roles, they do it consistently, and if you can do that, I would say if you do that in the first 20 games or so of the season, 20 to 30 games, you've put yourself in a really good spot. You don't want to be going through those motions come January and February, where you might still be a team that can make the playoffs, but you're not being able to consistently produce that way night in and night out. And so I think that's the challenge. And the encouraging part to me is, okay, so that wasn't ideal to start at home, then 4 on the road. 17 of the next 25 are here at Spectrum Center. This is a big stretch coming up.
Yeah, very important. We've always seen that kind of the front half of the schedule always seems to be loaded with home games, and the back half is away. My question for you is, and I'm going to turn the tables a little bit here. Do you think with a new head coach, do you think there's more of I'm going to say grace period with understanding and figuring out an identity with this team? You have a guy that's working with all new players, new system, first-time head coach, particularly James Borrego. Do you think it takes a while to figure out what team you're going to be as opposed to maybe a team that has a returning head coach and things like that?
That's a good question.
That knows the roster.
You know what? I'll fall in line with JB because what I've seen from him and what he's said on the record publicly is he just expects more from his guys. Mm-hmm. And I like that. I appreciate that. He set a high bar for what I think he wants his team to be. And, I think especially he's talked about the inconsistencies on defense right now, right? The Hornets right now are a top 10 offensive team in the NBA. They rank right now defensively 14th, 7th in offense, 14th in defense. He wants to bridge that gap. Yeah. He'd love for them to be top 10 in both. Yeah. And if you are, you're a really good team in this league.
You're a really good team, and you're going to do something.
So I say, you know what? There have been a lot of guys around all summer. They've worked. This team together is not new. The players have spent a lot of time with each other over the years. It's a pretty veteran group in terms of understanding one another. So, yeah, I think there's always a grace period early in the season, but just because he's a first-year head coach, I think, he's been very vocal. I'm going to play guys that are doing what I'm asking of them right now. So he set a high standard, so I'm going to answer no. There's no grace period, Sam Perley. You got to step it up here.
Yeah, he certainly made that evident the day after the loss in Chicago last week. It was kind of almost, I felt like sort of the newness and the excitement of the year. It's still very exciting, but it's like it's time to get to work. We need guys out here. Yeah.
He's not here for participation trophies or anything. He expects to win. He wants to win. And I think that should be the attitude, right? Because if you're not setting your expectations high, how are you supposed to go achieve them, right?
Right.
I think these guys want to be pushed. At the end of the day, I think it's one of the funniest things about the NBA is they say, oh, it's a players' league. Sure, yeah, it is. It's a players' league because these guys are great athletes, and you can scheme all you want. At the end of the day, if Kobe Bryant wants to get a game-winning shot and he knows where he wants to get there, you might know the spot too. Can you stop him?
Probably not.
Probably not, right? So coaching matters in as much as how do you position these guys, right? How do you put them in a position to succeed and go after something and give them all the tools they need to do it? And I think for JB, he understands these guys want to be coached. Every player in the NBA, for the most part, wants to be coached. They ask questions all the time.
They want to get better.
They treat this as their job because it is. And I think it's one of the biggest misnomers in the NBA is all these players, they just go out there and roll the ball in the court and play. Couldn't be further from the truth. All these guys are just giant inquisitors. They want to know all the time what's going on. They're students of the game. And the great ones are the ones that are coachable and are asking the best questions and are constantly trying to learn new things. So I like that. He's coaching them hard, Absolutely. And I think they want to be coached hard right now.
Yeah, and we saw it in camp this is the first time in a while we've actually had some real competition for minutes, center position, wing position with Jeremy Lamb and Malik. There are really good players right now that aren't playing minutes, and that happens. Good teams have great players that don't play, and that's what you want to see. You want to see this competition, and I think it's really pushed this team internally. And like you said, I think there's plenty of time to get stuff ironed out. We're 7 games in. I think the late game stuff will fix itself. It's about playing more complete for the first 48 minutes, leading into those situations where if it's a game on the line, how are you going to handle it?
Let's Let's talk 30th anniversary for a second, because you've done features on all of our top 10 guys. And I got to quit calling them top 10. I mean, it's technically a top 10, but we did, as an organization, we didn't do this. We just put all the players up to a vote at Hornets30.com, which is still live. It's a great website. All sorts of cool contents up there. But we put all the players up there, and there was a time window. We said, vote. Whoever you think, for whatever reason, are your favorite Hornets, your top Hornets of all time, go and vote. And our top 10 list drew a lot of criticism, I think. And I thought maybe you knew something was going to be, somebody's feelings were going to get hurt one way or the other from a fan standpoint when Al Jefferson was 10. Because I think that told you, all right, somebody who's, to your point, somebody who's really good isn't going to be on this list. You're going to be left out. And I think Al at 10, Kendall Gill was 9. I think those two right out of the gate said, okay, there are going to be some name brand players here that aren't going to be in our top 10.
Right, and I cannot echo enough that this was a fan voting.
It's a fan vote, okay, people?
Internally. We all had our own lists. You know, there's a lot of players that could have made this list, and some good ones that did, and maybe some that, but that's not to, slight anybody that did end up making it. But, I think obviously the biggest discrepancy was Kemba finishing 3rd. I think there was a lot of uproar over that, and I think you and I both agree, and there's a lot of people probably should have had him in 1st. But
what's your top 10? In no specific order.
I would have Kemba 1, and then I'm going to have to do these in tiers. Kemba, and then like that 2, 3, 4 range, I'd probably do some combination of Dell, Larry, and Alonzo.
Okay.
And then Muggsy. It's tough. Muggsy and Glenn. I loved Glenn Rice when he was there. I mean, he was so dominant. I think they'd have them in that 5 and 6 spot.
That's fair.
Anthony Mason. I think Emeka Okafor gets overlooked a little bit as a league's franchise all-time league rebounder.
I agree.
5 really good seasons here. Leads the team, I think, in double-doubles as well. So
Rookie of the Year.
He was
a Rookie of the Year winner. Over Dwight Howard, he was a Rookie of the Year winner.
And it's just that stretch just wasn't very good. And then he had sort of the neck injuries and shoulder injuries, I think it was, and then kind of faded away or was traded away. So I'd have him maybe in that 8. I love Gerald being in the top 10. I think that's great.
Gerald Wallace,
He was unbelievable here. And then coming down to that 10 spot, like I said last week, I think David Wesley is in there for a little bit. I think P.J. Brown might be in there a little bit. You got a couple guys I think you can make a case for.
Okay.
But I think my first 9 were pretty set. I think the 10th one is kind of open for debate.
You and I have the same list thing, because, that's my list. Maybe not in the same tiers, but if I'm naming 10 guys, David Wesley gets into me because he bridged the gap of those mid-'90s teams, the most explosive offenses in Hornets history, with Glenn, with Dell, with Mace, with Vlade, and he was out there for those as well. He could really shoot. Then that next iteration that kind of got retooled with some veterans and P.J. Brown and Eldon Campbell, and you talk about Jamal Mashburn, who was just a freaky athlete in the league at that time. I'd love to watch Mash play today. And then, he was a part of that with Baron Davis, right? Yeah. So those were good teams. Those are the teams that I think, everybody remembers the shot from Alonzo, the first playoff team. But really, those were the consistent winners in franchise history. That era, there were 10 seasons in a row with at least 500 basketball or more, and David Wesley was there for a bulk of those, right? And to your point, you brought this up. He leads our franchise history in playoff points.
It's a sneaky fact. I did not realize. I was looking something up else the other day, and it's David Wesley. So I think, kind of flies under the radar a lot. It's always wondering. You always wonder if, let's say, the team never moves. Those teams in late 2000s,
what would they
early
been?
2000s, Jamal Mashburn, Baron Davis, P.J. Brown, those guys. I mean, where could Mashburn and some of these guys have finished on this list? It's Devils.
Well, what do you think of Mash? Do you think of him as a Hornet? Do you think of him as a Heat? Do you think of him as a Maverick? What do you think of Mash?
I think it was a guy that ended up retiring too early because of his injuries. I think he's one of 6 guys to ever average 20 points per game in his final season. And he's only one of 2 or 3 of them to not have passed away prematurely from unexpected causes. So I don't know. I think
it's always the could have been
Hornet.
with him.
That era is always going to be it could have been. That team was a second-round playoff exit, first-round playoff exit. How good could they have been? Barron obviously went on to have a couple All-Star appearances. Jamal, if he never gets injured, how good could they have been? P.J. Brown, I think, went on to win a title maybe in Miami. So I bias and see Jamal as a Hornet, but other people could see him as a Heat. If you're a Heat fan, you see him as a Heat. You see Mavericks fans. So it's It's definitely open for interpretation, as we've learned.
And that's where I think, like, to your point, you get below, like, maybe 6, 7, 8. There are guys I think you could go as deep as, like, the next 10 guys you could name, and you'd say, you know what, I can make an argument for this guy being right on the cut line as 10, right? Mm-hmm. Kendall Gill, for me, is one of those. Mm-hmm. I respect our fans for putting him there. I have Kendall probably more closer, like, in that 12. 10 to 20 range, right? Yeah, or 10 to 15. Baron Davis, same thing. Baron's best basketball, while he was really good here in a human highlight reel, his best basketball came in New Orleans, unfortunately. To your point, we didn't get to see him consistently.
Never saw what Baron Davis was in Charlotte.
Al Jefferson. You know, Al, I think, had arguably one of the most dominant individual seasons in franchise history. He was an All-NBA player, which deserves a lot of credit, too. Pushed us to the playoffs. Was the longevity there? Not as much, but he's still, I think all those things considered, make him a top 15 player or so in our team's history. You know, Mashburn, I'm with you. He's in that list, so it's hard, man. It's really hard to dumb this to really whittle this down to 10 guys.
The Brooklyn Nets did one too. I don't know what anniversary they're celebrating now, but they did top 25 players, and I think theirs was more the team figured out of the organization. I was thinking back to this. I don't know how they can come up with 25 just because the debate would be just out the window.
Well, and here's the other thing. I think our team's history is more littered with, gosh, what would you say, wing players? Mm-hmm. So if we were actually putting a 5-man group out on the court, like 5 and 5, mm-hmm. 2 point guards, 2 shooting guards, 3
like
small.
Like a team to beat somebody.
Yeah, it would look totally different too, right? So that's the other part of this is we're just doing 10 guys, and for some fans, I think what they valued was the personalities, the when they grew up, who was popular, who was on the team.
Who was your favorite player growing up? Yeah.
Here, I'll give you another one who deserves to be in consideration. Never gets talked about. Hersey Hawkins.
It's a good one.
Hersey's in my opinion, probably one of our top 20 players in franchise history. Had 2 stints here. And Hersey was also really good elsewhere, especially in Seattle with those Sonics teams, in Portland as well. Mm-hmm. But Hersey was a really good player here.
I think what I factored in was 3 things. It was individual success, so awards, best seasons, things, longevity with the team. I think it's tough. Having 2 or 3 seasons, unless you were truly, truly exceptional those 3 years, like Glenn Rice was. A couple all-star teams, a couple all-NBAs. And then, so I had individual success, longevity, and then team success. How successful was the team while you were here? That's why some of those early 90s guys, before they had the win over the Celtics, they just didn't have the team success there.
Well, all I'm going to say is whatever everybody else is debating, we're right, because if you go to basketballreference.com on their franchise index for the Charlotte Hornets and Bobcats all time, mm-hmm. when you rank win shares 1 through 10, mm-hmm. your top 10 list and my top 10 list, not specifically aligned 1 through 10, but all 10 guys overlap with the top 10 win shares in team history. So we're right. Everybody else could be. They may think they're right, but you and I are right on our top 10
everyone's going to think we just copied off Basketball Reference.
That might have been what we did, actually. No. Well, and then another guy, too, that's on that list, I should say that is, who comes in at 11, and the guy that comes in at 12, I also agree, if he keeps this up for another year or two, we'll be in this conversation. But Eldon Campbell's at 11.
Oh, yeah.
Eldon was very good here.
Sneaky good. He came over, I think you said it last week, too, was another guy. And again, these guys some of them didn't have longevity. Eddie Jones, great defensive player when he was here. Part of that late. I think he was traded for Glenn Rice.
His best individual season was here in Charlotte that season after he came over in that trade. So, and an all-defensive guy, right, in the NBA.
Started the All-Star game.
Only Hornets ever start an All-Star game. Eddie Jones.
I think it's tough, too. I mean, it's just, and that's kind of, as the fan voting, it's frustrating because you when you vote, you're like, I want my team to win. I want what I had ordered to win. But this is kind of the beauty of it. I think we learn a lot more about some of these guys that, growing up, I didn't have 100% knowledge of Rex Chapman. I was a little too young to remember Rex playing, but going back, looking at these stats, looking at the team, looking at the highlights of them, these are some really good players. I think this whole process of the 30th anniversary is not only do you learn about and remember some of the players you remember watching, but some of the ones that came before that, you get kind of an impression. I think that's sort of the beauty of this. Yeah, the rankings might not have come out the way everybody wanted, Kemba, this and that, but it's allowed me, at least personally, to really tap into some of these old players and old highlights and things like that and say, look at our franchise in a 30-year, segment. Say this is, we had a lot of special moments and a lot of special players here.
Here's another random guy, as we'll just end our podcast today on a random note. David Wingate. I don't know why. I just like David Wingate, right? He was just I feel like he was a good athlete. You know, he's a role player, probably not on great Hornets teams, but I don't know. I always remember David Wingate for some reason.
Every time you go back through this, you keep thinking, I think we're both guilty of it, is another guy. Oh, what about this guy? What about that guy? And maybe for challenge's sake, we'll do a 20 or 10 to 15. I'm trying to think. We had the list of the next 5, 11 to 15. I think Mace was in there. I think Rex was in there. Jamal Mashburn was in there. A couple of the guys that were right on the fringes but didn't quite get in.
Well, yeah, and how about a guy like, man, do you put Raymond Felton on this list? I don't know.
You look at numbers.
I mean, he had staying power, right?
He's up there.
He did it for a while. I know those teams didn't win as much, but I mean, to your point, you could do this forever. You could go up and down the franchise index for like
just rank
all-time roster. Yeah.
Yeah, so, Raymond, if you look at the numbers, Raymond is up there. He's a top 5 steals, I'm sure, top 5 assists.
Yeah.
He just didn't have the team success. He didn't really have the staying power either.
He was just really solid. Like, he wasn't a phenomenal player, but he was just really, really
reliable.
solid.
Still playing, too.
Yeah, he is.
It's a crazy thing. 82 games last year.
Getting it done in OKC.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Sam Perley, Hornets.com. You can check out his work. And you've got a trends feature up, right now at Hornets.com.
Yes, just put it up. Just kind of some early observations. It's on a regular season notebook, something we're just going to do periodically throughout the year, just looking at different trends, different observations, rotations, things like that, kind of just combination numbers, quotes, things you kind of pick up. So that should be up on the website right now.
That's Courtside Seats, episode 21. Thanks to Miles Bridges, Sam Perley of Hornets.com for dropping by. Of course, you can find us on YouTube, on our Hornets YouTube channel. Just search the podcast, Courtside Seats, or you could search Charlotte Hornets, find us there. Apple Podcasts, same thing. And wherever podcasts are available. And we'll catch you guys back here next Monday, another episode of Courtside Seats.